I'm here today primarily to focus on discussing what it's like to be a professional writer. Primarily, screenplays is my specialty, writing movies. So that's where my expertise lies in terms of being a writer. It's interesting as a professional artist because very few of us got into this so that we could be labeled or have one particular label. So off the top, I'm going to give you a little bit of who I am and what I do. And I would encourage you to take this opportunity, because I'm only here for 30 minutes, to ask me any questions with regards to writing or acting or voiceovers or anything that strikes you. I'm more than happy to accommodate any questions that might help facilitate what your true desires are. But I will focus primarily on the writing today. So, as a professional artist, you've heard some of the shows I work on, Once Upon a Time, Smallville, Fringe, shows like that. I also voice a lot of cartoons, things like Dragon Ball Z, Inuyasha, Hamtaro, Hello Kitty, Transformers. So there's a bunch of different opportunities that I've had to do earlier on in my career, and things I wouldn't trade for the world. So if anybody has any questions with regards to pursuing professional film, television, voice acting, anything like that, I'm happy to accommodate that as well. But as we're here to discuss writing, I want to go over some of the ideas, and some of the ideas of what it's like to be a professional artist will translate across all forms of professional art. So out of curiosity, does anybody do any writing right now at an amateur level? Does anybody write plays, write short stories, write movies, write books, whatever the case may be? Yeah, a few of you? Okay, that's good. Not unlike my friend said here, yes, I did have an opportunity earlier in my career where I was sneaking into stand-up comedy clubs. Before I was old enough, you have to be of legal drinking age to actually be in the club, but you can sneak in the back door, perform on stage, and then the kids have to go home. That's what I was told. I'm still not sure that was entirely proper. But I did have an opportunity once early in my career to work with Robin Williams when he was shooting Jumanji, and he took me aside and he said, you know what, you're funny, you got a good thing, you should do this professionally. And I thought he was insane. The idea of being a professional artist was ludicrous. The odds of being able to make a living at it or being consistent sounded like crazy talk. And with Robin Williams, everything kind of sounds like crazy talk. But it was good advice, because I've now been doing this for 2 decades. This is what I do. So I've now built enough foundations that I know this is what I do for all of my days. I've chosen a career path where I'm not working for the weekend. I'm not looking forward to retirement. I won't retire. Most of us in the world of professional arts do not retire. We have no desire to. I have 3 younger brothers who all work in industries where they can't wait for Friday night, and they live hard all the way till Sunday night, and then they go back to the grind Monday to Friday. And they can't wait till retirement so they can really start living. When you make a commitment to being a professional artist, we're exactly where we want to be at every moment in time. This is exactly what we want to do. We commit to a life of educating and entertaining. And sometimes we even do both at the same time. It's rare, but we do. So these are some of the opportunities that exist for those of you who wish to be a professional artist. So in terms of writing, primarily with regards to screenplays, some of the ideas, I think, or some of the myths that are out there is that it's an unsteady business, or you should have a really good fallback plan, or nobody really does it. I mean, it's a neat idea, but you should go get a job, which I find so incredibly offensive all the time. This is a legitimate career path. This is a legitimate job. But for those of you guys who want to pursue a life in the professional arts, there are realities with that. It's no different than, I really like playing hockey. I play hockey 4 days a week. And I would love to play in the NHL. It's never going to happen. I don't work hard enough to be in the NHL. Even at 4 days a week, I don't work hard enough to be there. I don't deserve to be there. And I think both acting and writing get a similar unfair designation as being a fantasy job, because a lot of people sort of kind of try it or think they want to try it. They don't really commit 100%. They don't learn the craft of what we do. There's a very specific skill. Like, did you know that every movie you've ever watched has the exact same 15 things that happen at the exact same minute of every movie that you've ever watched? And we'll go through that in a little bit, because maybe it'll change everything for you. But there's a math behind what we do. There's a science behind creating stories. And those of us who choose to learn that science at an elite level get to work at an elite level. And it's an amazing life. How many of you, by show of hands, would perhaps like to be either a professional writer or a professional actor or a professional something artistic? Most of us do. Most of us do. And I think having art in your life is imperative. It's imperative for our society. It's imperative for your individual souls. And for those of you who truly, truly, truly want to pursue this, I want to create an opportunity today to give you 10, 15 minutes to really hash out some of the questions you may have, or we can discuss some of the traditional phobias, fears, or obstacles that people have in wanting to become a professional actor. A big one is often my parents would kill me. My parents would never go for that. I went through the same thing myself. I still remember being 17 years old and telling my mother, and I was shaken. I was ready for a fight. I had all my arguments ready to go. And I remember I walked in and I told her, Mom, I think I'm going to be a professional actor. That's what I'm going to do. There's going to be no university. There's going to be no college. I'm not even going to learn a trade. Nothing. I'm just going to tell stories for a living. That's what I'm going to do. I was ready for the fight. But I didn't get it. And bless my mother for doing this. All she said to me was, that's fine. But if you're going to do it, you have to be good enough that people pay you to do it. That's my only deal. You've got to learn it well enough that you need to have a real sit down with yourself and realize who wants to do this and at what level they do it, and you need to be as good, if not better than them, in order to make this an actual career. A lot of people don't understand that those of us in the professional arts, whether it be writers, actors, we have families, we go on vacation, we buy homes, we go to the bank, and we ask for hundreds of thousands of dollars with a promise that we will pay it back. And we don't know what our next jobs are going to be. But we do know that storytelling is consistent. We do know there are other industries out there that claim to be the oldest industry. We are the oldest industry. We've been telling stories since we could paint in caves. We've been telling stories forever. We will always tell stories. So while we don't always necessarily know what show we're going to be working on or what movie we're going to write, we do know, as we've done for the entire existence of our people, we will tell stories. It exists. But if you want to do it professionally, you've got to learn the skills. You've got to learn the skills required to work at that level. Does that make sense? So, out of curiosity, how many people would like to be a writer, do they think? Like, write movies? A few of you? Okay. So I'm going to go through it really quickly here, okay? Forgive me. And at any point, if anybody has any questions, this is so much better if you have interactive questions. And don't be afraid to cut me off, because this is this opportunity. If any of you have any nagging doubts in your belly or curiosities, today is the day to ask me. This is what I do for a living. And I don't come to Winnipeg often. This is actually the first time thus far. I'd love to be back, but this is your chance to dialogue with me about what it would literally take to be a professional writer or actor. Every movie you've ever seen, in the very first minute, you establish the time, place, and tone. For example, one of my favorites is the movie Star Wars. Does anybody know when that takes place? When does it take place? A long time ago, yeah. And where?
Galaxy far, far away.
Far, far away. That's how simple it is. But there is a science behind movie making. In the movie Star Wars, knowing full well that you need to set time, place, and tone, George Lucas, who I still think was lucky, I used to think he was a genius, but then I saw the last three movies, and now I think he got lucky. But he actually just wrote it down on a piece of paper, and he scanned it up the screen for you. Brilliant or lazy? The jury is still out. But yeah, set up time, place, and tone. The 110th minute, which is the last minute of your movie, is the exact opposite of that. In the third minute of the movie, somebody will specifically tell you what the theme of the movie is going to be about. It's going to be something like, I wonder what it'd be like if my dad couldn't lie, or something along those lines if it's a Jim Carrey movie, or something that's going to explore what the thematic premise of the movie is about. The first 10 minutes, you're going to meet every single character in the movie. You're going to learn the hero's flaw, and you're going to learn the 6 things that he needs to fix in his life. The minute 12 minutes into every movie, you're going to find the opportunity where the hero is invited to join the story. Something random is always going to happen 12 minutes into every movie that coincidentally creates an opportunity for the hero to explore that flaw that they have. Between 12 minutes and 25 minutes of every movie, the hero will debate whether or not I should do this wicked opportunity that just happened. And you know what he always does? The wicked opportunity. On minute 25. 25 minutes into every movie you ever watch, 25 minutes in, the hero decides, yeah, I'm going to do that thing that was invited, or I was invited to on page 12. And we all buy it like, wow, I can't believe he did that. Of course he did it. It's 25 minutes in the movie. 30 minutes into the movie, he's going to meet his mentor, his girlfriend, or his best friend. And that's where he's going to talk about how he feels about everything that's happening to him. And then from minute 30 to 55, that's what the movie's about. We call that the promise of the premise. And that's every movie you've ever seen. That's what the movie's about. Has anybody here seen the movie Step Brothers? Yes. Yeah, but like the whole movie is about two grown men living together as stepbrothers, and it's hilarious because it's John C. Reilly and Will Ferrell, and we want to see lots of that, and that's all you do. So it's like the whole movie, scientifically, is just what would be funny for 30 minutes with two grown men trying to live like stepbrothers. What if they had to like borrow each other's stuff? What if they had to like build bunk beds together? What if they got in a fight with some other kids in the park or whatever? But that's what the movie's about. 55 minutes in every movie is the false climax or the false victory, and that's where we think we're winning. 55 to 75, the bad guys close in. You hate you, your friends hate you, everybody else got bigger guns. It's scary, it's super wicked scary. 75 minutes into every movie you watch, we call it the whiff of death. Somebody dies or somebody almost dies. 75 minutes into every movie. 75 to 85, we call it Dark Night of the Soul. That's where we feel really bad about ourselves. Anybody see the movie Wedding Crashers? That's when Owen Wilson's walking around. He's all sad because Vince Vaughn's got a girlfriend. I can't believe it. He gets beat up by Bradley Cooper. Oh, I hate my life. I'm going to go crash funerals now. Like, it's so scientific. It's so intentional. It wasn't a guy who sat down one day and said, fade in, open on a dark, stormy night. Like, we don't do that. Everything we do as professional writers is a scripted, learned skill. It's a science. 85 minutes to 110 minutes, it's the final act or the final battle. And the same 5 things happen. We rally the troops, we charge the castle, we almost win and then we lose, and then we decide to re-rally the troops, all do our Care Bear stare at the same time, and then all of a sudden we either win or we lose. But that's every movie you've ever seen. Go home and watch any movie you've ever seen. If you remember anything I've said, you can sit there with your stopwatch, you can watch them, and you'll find that's what we do. So those of you who are under the impression that, well, I can't be a professional writer or a professional actor, I wasn't born with it, I'm not really creative, I'm a little shy. It's not about being outgoing. It's not even about being creative all the time, although eventually it's a little bit about being creative. It's about learning the skill, learning the science, learning the formula of what it takes to be a professional artist. And when you can do that, all the other stuff doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how shy you are. It doesn't matter how brilliant you think you are. It'd be no different for those of you who think you need to be born with it than if you were like, well, I don't think I'm going to be a doctor. I'm not really good at it yet. What are you, 16? It'd be crazy if you were good at heart surgery. It'd be insane. You haven't gone to heart surgery school. You can't do heart surgery unless you have heart surgery school. It's no different than being an actor or writer. You have to make sure that you learn the specific skills that we've all been committing to for thousands of years. Does that all make sense? Yep. And if you want to do this, again, I'll go back to my NHL analogy. If I want to play in the NHL, A, I've got to train like I want to be in the NHL, and I can't just be really good in my beer league. And then 2, I have to be willing to live in one of the cities where the NHL exists. So I can't say, I want to live in Seattle and play in the NHL. Well, you can't. They don't have a team yet. So there are things that you need to consider. So those of you who want to be professional artists, I'd also advise it might mean leaving the sunny skies of Winnipeg. But that's a reality that you have to be, and for some of you that sounds like fun. It's like, yeah, I'd like to get out of the peg, and this is my first time, so I think it's quite lovely. But for you guys who've been here your whole life, maybe you're like, yeah, I just want to, whatever I do, I want to work outside of Winnipeg. Or for some of you who are like, I really want to write movies, and I really want to act in movies, but I want to do them here. We just don't do them here yet. So my advice is if you want to be a professional artist, if you want to be a professional writer, you have to be willing to locate to one of the geographical areas that we do it. Los Angeles, New York, Toronto, Vancouver. That being said, as Canadians, unless you have dual citizenship, what you need to be doing is considering Vancouver or Toronto first. And if you want to do LA or New York, they're very possible. I have countless friends who live in New York and LA that did this road. There's a road that we all take, but you start in Toronto or Vancouver to build the street cred that Los Angeles and New York will recognize. And we're very fortunate in this country that we work as a service industry, so we have opportunities to work on some of the biggest shows in North America and the world, and those credits are transferable around, and they let us be geographically free for whatever we want to do creatively. Does that all make sense?
Yep.
Does anybody have any questions yet? Yes?
Are TV shows as scripted and well, formulaic as
Absolutely. Yeah, and we use like the classic 3-act structure, and I don't know if they still teach that. They did when I was a kid, but it's like you got this straight line and then like a witch's hat and then the other line, and it's sort of like the first act, the second act, and the third act. And everything's like that. Movies, TV shows, it's all very much, very scripted, very structured.
What would be first step to do if you want to get into something like this?
That's great, correct. First step to do, the very first step to do, what you guys, what's really difficult to help everybody understand is the importance of your youth right now. Your youth is a tremendous amount of currency in the creative arts. As professional writers, I have a girl that I train that works with me. She's very young and not as skilled as some of my more seasoned friends. But her youthful voice is so incredibly valuable. She actually has 2 feature films in development with one of our bigger production companies back home. She's writing 2 movies. She is 22 years old. She has very limited experience, but because she can come from an authentic place of youth, she's invaluable. Everybody wants her. What happens a lot in our industry is that people will graduate high school and they won't, this is something they kind of want to do or they're passionate about, but you want to wait a few years. I'm going to go do general studies for 4 years at university, maybe travel the world for a bunch of years, maybe get like a job at some shoe store, get a wicked car, meet a couple girls, whatever the case may be. We seem to take this time immediately out of high school and we do other things and then we get serious about this in our mid to late 20s. The truth of the matter is it's still very much a reality to do that, but your most valuable time will be when you're younger. Those of you who know this is your priority in life, this is what I want to do. I want to commit myself to a life in the professional arts. Really, really, really start thinking about what that means immediately out of high school. Your value is ramped. You have opportunities that the rest of the world just don't have. People in their 30s and 40s, for example, when they want to get into this, the option of going to Los Angeles and New York, it's not as realistic. Those of you who want to work on the bigger screens, bigger stage, I have people that when I started acting, for example, I remember still vividly, I auditioned with people like Ryan Gosling, Seth Rogen, Ryan Reynolds. These are all just regular jerks that used to be at the same auditions. But these guys started early, they worked hard, and they made a commitment to investing in themselves to the point that they created a value for themselves that they could go to Los Angeles and New York and work in anything they want. And I'm sure you're familiar with all 3 of those gentlemen. And there's many more. I still remember when Hayden Christensen was somebody, and he may be somebody that's already faded away, but it was a pretty big deal when he booked Darth Vader. That was a pretty cool thing for all of us when a local guy went out and got it. The truth of the matter is that even though you're out here in Winnipeg or whether you're in Regina or Vancouver, Toronto, we still have opportunities to work in some of the bigger shows in the world as writers and as actors. Does anybody have any questions for me? Yeah. So how many people still think they want to do this? Anybody? There's lots. Okay. Let me make sure I haven't missed anything here because I've only got a few more minutes. So, a lot of people are under the impression that nobody actually works. It's inconsistent, but it's no different than something like being like a landscaper. Like if you want to be a landscaper, and I said, okay, that's great. So I got a truck and a lawnmower and some really good scissors. I'm not a landscaper. So I have no idea what they do. But I got all this stuff. I'm going to go do like lawns and stuff. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make good money. I'm going to like trim some hedges and stuff for a living. Okay, it's a great job. But whose house are you going to do next week and the week after? I don't know. But I know people will always need their lawns and their businesses manicured. And that's the same thing with us. We're in an evolving world. You're in an evolving market. And there are many, many more of us now who are independent contractors, and we don't have guarantees on when the next job is. We don't know what it specifically is. And that's also why they pay us a very high amount of money for every time we do book work. We spend a lot of time job interviewing. We spend a lot of time looking for work. And when we do book it, we're compensated appropriately. So I've only got a few more minutes left here. Out of curiosity, how many of you guys are in the 12th grade? Couple? How many, 11? Bunch of like 10 or earlier? Okay, a mixed bag. Good. So for those of you in the 12th grade, my advice to you, you need to start thinking about what you want to do now. You need to remember, if this is what you want to professionally do, you need to start researching opportunities to train and develop at the highest level possible now. Don't wait. Those of you in the 11th grade, 10th grade and younger, you need to start doing your research. You can contact almost any of the schools right across the nation, and you can get a list of what their reading lists are, you can get a list of what their classes are, and you can get a head start. My advice to you, for example, for those of you who want to be a writer, you should all go out and buy the book, Save the Cat, Story, and How to Write a Movie in 21 Days. You should all read those 3 books. If this is what you truly want to do, and you don't have to be like 17 to read them. You can read them at 15. You can read them at 16. You can read them at any age. Get started now. Be familiar with it. Being a professional artist is different, too, than some of the other things. Unless you're Doogie Howser, which was a terrible reference that will be lost on this crowd, you cannot just start being a doctor when you're like 13 years old. But you can do this. You can do this as a professional artist. You can start now. You can write movies now. You can write TV shows now. You can act in TV shows and cartoons now. You don't have to wait. Now, that's only for those of you who want to work professionally. Those of you who don't want to work professionally, I highly encourage you, write plays, go see plays, act in plays, get involved creatively. It's just good for your soul. Those of you who want to truly do this for a living, understand you're making a commitment to compete in the highest league in the world. Those of us who work in film, television, and on the professional stages, it is the equivalent of the NHL of the arts. And if you want to do that, you need to train as such. And if you're willing to do that, you can do this. It's not about being a brilliant person who was born with all this natural talent. It's about a willingness to learn and a work ethic and having a right, proper, measurable path that you follow. Does that make sense?